Okay, here we go. Gonna do Bitcoin Lightning node. Anybody had any experience with Bitcoin Lightning nodes or Bitcoin nodes? Anybody? Brock, have you had any experience with this?
That's why I asked for this.
I know this is your request.
My request.
Okay, here we go. You've got some, you've got a bit.
We started setting it up and never really got anywhere. It's been in place for 6 months.
Ah, okay. You got any channel set up?
No idea what I'm doing.
Oh, okay. Well,
One of my techies, and we're too busy doing other things.
yeah, of course, that's what ends up with all of us, right? But this is going to be a kind of an easy way to leverage into it. It's like I started out, I had this grand scheme of making this a complete live demonstration of doing the Bitcoin Lightning node, and I quickly realized that it's a very complex thing to do. So we're going to do it, and I'm going to show you a Bitcoin Lightning node, and I'm going to show you what I've created, but I can't create it live because it would take roughly about an hour just to set up the server to do it, and then several hours to show you, you know, all the different ways that you configure it and stuff. So we're not going to do that, but we will gloss over it. I'll tell you the basics of everything about setting up a Lightning node, why it's advantageous, and what you need to know about it. And then we're going to set one up on Voltage.Cloud. Voltage.Cloud.
What is that?
It's a service, and it's a really good service. It actually, basically, if you wanted to set up a Lightning node, you can go to this service, and you can have it set up literally within 5 minutes.
Is it a VPS?
No, it's a complete service. They manage the node, either a Bitcoin node or a Lightning node, and they give it to you free. And if you exceed a certain amount of usage, then of course you got to start paying, like all of these services. But the nice thing about it is they manage everything. They keep everything up to date. They keep the security up to date. They keep the server up to date, and you just pay a flat rate monthly fee. And that's what I'm going to show in the live demo, because to show the other one would take a little bit longer. But I'm going to kind of show you what I did and what I set up, because there's other ways that we can use this this thing and make it. I think it's still we're only at 40%. I did it this morning, and we're still only at 40% of loading the whole Bitcoin blockchain. And I got a gigabit connection here.
What was that cloud, that site you were talking about, something.cloud? not .cloud, but...
Oh, Voltage. Voltage.Cloud. Yeah, that's the one that we're going to be showing tonight. And I do have a handout that I'm going to post up on Telegram that'll tell you exactly how to set up the one that I'm going to show you running, and then also to set up the Voltage.Cloud as well. It gives you both different options, and the one is super simple to do it. Voltage is really easy. It's basically a website that you log into, you create an account, and you decide what you want. You want a Bitcoin node, you want a Lightning node, you want both. It doesn't matter. It's quick and easy, and it lets you do that right away. And now we're going to talk about a couple other ways to do it, and I'm going to show you the other one that I've set up as well, because it's kind of cool too. But that one is a little complex, so I can't really, like I said, I can't really show it to you the whole process. But we'll get into it. Has anybody heard of Umbrel? UMBREL? I think you mentioned that you heard about it, Brock. It's a really cool little Linux distro that allows you to set it up on any of, if you have an old PC, like an old Windows PC that all of a sudden now can't get Windows 11, well, you could set it up as a media server, and it can do a number of other things. One of the things that it can do is actually host a Bitcoin node, a Lightning node, it can host a Plex server, it can host a Bitcoin Watch address, and a whole bunch of other social media stuff and all that, and I'll show you some of the things that it can do. So step number one would be to set up one of these Umbrel servers, and then you put the Lightning node, the Bitcoin node on top of that. And I'm going to show you mine running. Like I said, to set it up would just take a little bit too long, but we will go through that, and I'll show you that running so you can see what it is and what you can do with it and all that kind of stuff, and then give you the handout if you want to do it on your own after. But it's pretty cool, and it's a cool service. So we're going to do two things. First off, we're going to look at Umbrel, and we're going to look at how it works, and I'm just going to show it to you working, because I just took an old PC that I have over there that Windows 11 could no longer be put on it, but it was a decent machine, and I'd put Linux on it, and I was running it with Linux, and it was a nice little machine, and I was going to give it away to someone. But then this came up, and I thought, well, hey, that would be a great one to run this Umbrel on. And the cool thing about this is you set Umbrel up on a little USB drive, you plug it in, you boot to that USB drive, and boom, it's all there. And then you log in through the network to access it. And I'm going to show you that because I've got the Mac here, and I'll log into it. It's actually running right over there, but we'll log into it through the Mac, and I'll show it to you running and show you some of the things you can add to it and all that. And then if you want to do that, then we can maybe have another demonstration at another time to show that one, or you can try and do it from the quick start notes that I'll post up on Telegram. Okay, so all of that. So we do have an actual presentation, and we'll start from that, and we'll go from there. And see if I can actually get it to go up on the screen there. It's always a challenge. I learned that dealing with the Samsung gods is the best way to go, because then it actually works. Tried to do it through Apple, and of course Samsung and Apple, since they're always battling, is an ongoing challenge, but it's working. So what are we going to do? With a Bitcoin Lightning node, there's a lot of things that you can do. It solves a lot of problems. Like, say for instance, you have a retail store and you want to be able to offer Bitcoin payments or Bitcoin tips. If you're posting on social media, you want to be able to take Bitcoin tips. Well, you can do all of that through a Lightning node. The basic thing about a Lightning node is it makes everything very, very inexpensive. Fractions of a penny to do transactions, to do things on a Lightning node, which is pretty cool.
Very fast.
Yeah, and super fast. The thing is about Bitcoin, as much as we love it and as much as we know it's the best store of value that there is, let's say if you're going to buy a coffee, well, the coffee's maybe $3. Well, your transaction fee on a regular Bitcoin transaction could be as high as $1.40. It doesn't really work on a $2 or $3 transaction. Whereas if you're running Lightning, and Lightning, is everybody familiar with how Lightning runs? It runs, they always like to say it runs on top of, I like to say it runs beside the Bitcoin blockchain. It's just another blockchain that runs beside the Bitcoin blockchain. You will hear people saying it runs above, it runs below, layer 2, whatever, but I like to think of it as running beside it. Because what it does is, it's kind of like, it's like it keeps track of all the transactions you do. So say you have that coffee shop, or you have that store where you want to do, you want to constantly be doing these small transactions. Well, it keeps track of all those transactions, and then it only resolves them like once a day. So you're not constantly going to Bitcoin, and you're not constantly waiting. Like Bitcoin, it takes a minimum of 30 minutes with Bitcoin. 3 confirmations, 10 minutes per confirmation. But let's say something goes wrong. It can take 30, 60, 90 minutes for a Bitcoin transaction to go through. So if you're trying to do a cup of coffee and it's costing $1.40 to do the transaction and it's taken 60 minutes, well, how do you deal with that? It's almost impossible to deal with. So that's where Lightning comes in. It runs beside the Bitcoin blockchain. It lets you do instantaneous transactions that are automatically done, fractions of a penny per transaction. So even if you're tipping someone 50 cents, it's a fraction of a penny to do it. So it all makes sense now. It all works. And then it resolves back to the Bitcoin blockchain. So you've still got the security of the Bitcoin blockchain, which is huge. I mean, that's ultimately what we want. We want the security of the Bitcoin blockchain. And we're going to look at 2 different ones in this. Well, actually 3 in total. I'm not even going to talk much about the one because I haven't looked at it myself, but it does sound like a good solution as well. There's Umbrel, which we're going to see. There's Voltage.Cloud, which is the cloud version, and it's a quick and easy way to do it. And then there's also one called Start9, which Brock is going to want to investigate a little bit more. Now that you got some time, you're probably going to be able to dig into this one a little bit. Start9 is pretty cool. It's actually all runs through the Tor network, so it's completely anonymous. So when you create a node, a Lightning node, or even a Bitcoin node for that matter, on the Start9 protocols, it's again an OS. It's a Linux distro that boots up on its own, and it's completely anonymous, done through the Tor network. So if you set up a Lightning node on Start9, there's no records of what happens. It's just a node talking to the Bitcoin blockchain. So if they were to look back on that, there would only be a transaction from an anonymous node. That's all you'd ever see. So it gives you one more layer of privacy than the normal Bitcoin blockchain does.
Does it use Bitcoin Core?
Yes. Yeah. Anytime you're running Lightning, you have to have Bitcoin because, of course, Lightning resolves back to Bitcoin.
You use a different code.
It uses a full Bitcoin node, whatever way you want to do that. Core is one way, but there's a few different ways to do it. Yeah, there's a few different ones that do it, but yeah, you have to have the full Bitcoin node running. That's when I set this up. That's what it had to do as well.
The whole op return controversy these days, it's nice to have a choice.
Yes, exactly. So at least you know that it's actually there. All right, so layer 2 versus layer 1. And that's kind of the basics in understanding how this Lightning Network works. And like I said, it runs beside it. It doesn't run on top of it or under it or, you know, however you see them. And if you think about Bitcoin, it's secure, but it's slow and it's expensive, right? So it's, you know, 10-minute blocks, high fees during congestion. Every transaction is on chain. And then the layer 2, which is Lightning, instant transaction, low fees, increased privacy, and off-chain scalability. So you can scale your node as large as you want. You could put unlimited amounts of Bitcoin into it, and some people do. Some people have a lot of Bitcoin tied up in their nodes, and they get paid back a fee. So these fees are very inexpensive, but when you're doing a lot of transactions, it can add up. And most people say that it runs anywhere from about 4 to 6% per year APY that you would end up making back on your Bitcoin that you have tied up in your node. So it might be something to investigate, and it might be kind of a fun little project if someone wants to do this. You got to be very careful doing this because when you take your Bitcoin out of your wallet and put it on a Lightning node, you're actually trusting that you'll get that back. And you hope that you've done it correctly, that you'll get that back. So you may not want to send a whole bunch of Bitcoin there at first. Apparently the Lightning nodes you can use as little as 100 Satoshis. So like, you know, I don't know what that's worth, but that's not much now, like 100 Satoshis. It's a few bucks, right? Like at the most. So you can set this all up for a few bucks. You can also set it up on a test net, so you don't even have to actually risk real Bitcoin. So you can test it all, get comfortable with it all on a test net ahead of time. And of course, test nets are just like fake Bitcoin, right? And they just allow you to test all the protocols and make sure that they work beforehand. So Bitcoin, Lightning is built on top of Bitcoin. It doesn't replace it, it just enhances it. It makes it another layer better, if you will. It just unlocks a lot of use cases. Like we said before, cheap transactions that don't cost a lot of money. And doing it any other way is pretty expensive with Bitcoin. So, why it matters? Well, payments are confirmed in milliseconds. It's almost instantaneous, really. As quickly as you transmit, it gets received on the Lightning Network. So the funds just happen instantaneously. Fees are fractions of a penny, so that's really good. And most payments are off-chain. So, in other words, all the transactions that a node does gets resolved back to the Bitcoin blockchain, but as a big chunk. And they're not individual, there's just one transaction that goes back to the Bitcoin blockchain. And there's no information in there. It's just the node makes a resolution back to the Bitcoin blockchain and that's it. So it's more private. I don't say it's completely private. It's not like Monero. It's not like some of the other privacy tokens, but it is more private way to use Bitcoin. And of course, sovereignty, no bank, no middleman. Now you're controlling a channel now when you own a Bitcoin Lightning node. You're controlling a channel that transmits funds around the world. And you can literally scale it to almost unlimited transactions per second because it's on a whole different chain than Lightning, or pardon me, a whole different chain than Bitcoin. So it can be literally almost an unlimited number of transactions per second. So that's pretty cool. So you can't really bog it down. And it's micropayments, subscriptions, tipping, streaming, all these kind of things all of a sudden get opened up for Bitcoin now. Whereas, like we said before, you can't really do that for Bitcoin normally. Same thing over here as over there, but that's okay. Okay, so how it works, just a simplified version. Alice and Bob open a channel. They lock up some Bitcoin, however much that is, 100, 200 Satoshis, doesn't have to be a lot of money, and then they send the Bitcoin back and forth off chain. Only the final balance is resolved back to the Bitcoin blockchain. So it's just, you know, during the time, it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then at the end, it does its recording through the channels. Now there's a network of Bitcoin channels. You tie to other channels, and you know, if you're tied to a very successful channel, you can get more transactions, but there's ways to just tie into the big channels right off. And if you think of it, one of the ways that they talk about is thinking of it like a bar tab. You know, you can go to a bar, you can order drinks all night, but then you only have to pay your bar tab at the end of the night. It's the same kind of thing with a Bitcoin Lightning node. You're only paying it once at the end of the night or the end of the day. Okay, so Umbrel versus Start9. Start9 is a more secure version of this. Umbrel is it's a media server that can host a number of different things like we talked about. It can do Bitcoin node, it can do Lightning node, it can do Plex, it can do, you know, if you wanted to do an IRC chat, it can do that. It can do like almost limitless number of things that it can do, and it's very easy. Well, they say super easy. It's not that easy. Start9 is more complex. It may be easier. I haven't tested it yet, but I'm thinking Start9 might end up being even easier than Umbrel. But sleek and user-friendly interface. Umbrel is really cool. Like, it's got a really nice interface, and it's not intuitive, but it looks really good. Like, you know, so yeah, it's not intuitive at all, but it looks really good. And it's got a pretty decent app store, so plugging in these extra things you want Umbrel to do, it's easy to do, to add those on, and I'll show you some of that. Privacy-wise, it's just through a web browser, through Umbrel, so it's not overly private, whereas if you look at Start9, it runs through Tor, and if everybody's familiar with what Tor is like the same network that the CIA and NSA and all that use. It was created initially as it's called the dark web, right? Like, it's the dark web. So they use that as the access point using Start9. It's natively built right into Start9 to use Tor. And so access is through a web browser. When you look at Umbrel, through Start9, it's sovereignty and long-term. So in other words, it's a Linux distro that was created, and you have to update it when the time comes. But other than that, it's complete standalone system that works on its own. So Umbrel, fast setup and demos. It's a little better for that kind of stuff than Start9, and I'm not going to be covering Start9 other than in the handout where I explain it, and I'm going to experiment with it a little bit myself. So if anyone wants to know more about it, I'll talk to them about it later. But
what is sovereignty?
Just you control it. Like, you 100% control everything.
Okay, so it's not like a Linux distribution. It's not a name for...
It is, yeah.
Okay, is that the distribution name?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I think in terms of what they're discussing here, it's just that you have complete control over it. It's not through a web browser. It's through an actual Linux distro, as opposed to Umbrel, which runs a Linux distro, but you access it through a web browser. So it gives you just a higher level of security. Yeah, full stack sovereignty. Okay, so setting up the Lightning node in Umbrel, and we'll jump out here and I'll show it to you. We won't do all this just because, like I said, it takes too long, but you can get it right here at getumbrel.com, and you can download that. You can download the Linux distro, and it's free. And you can install it on hardware. You can install it on like an old PC, even a Raspberry Pi. That says Raspberry Pi 4, but my understanding is it should be a Raspberry Pi 5 to actually work properly. And yeah, they say power on and connect to network, access via browser, and that's absolutely true. Once it's up and running, you just access it through a browser that's on the same network. And I'll show you that on the Mac here once we finish talking about this slide here. You create the login, you open a Lightning channel, connect the wallet, either Zeus, Blue Wallet, or any other wallet that has Lightning capabilities, and optional, use testnet to learn without risking real BTC. So I'm going to jump out of the presentation now, if it'll let me do that. I hope it will. Oh, okay, probably going to give me a hard time. let's just see if I can make it happen. Okay, we're just going to jump out and I'm going to show you Umbrel running. This is it right here. This is Umbrel. And again, so the way that I made this work was I put a USB disk drive into my old machine over there. I rebooted it and I had it, you know, set up these various nodes. And this is just what's running on here, what's on here right now. And if you look over here, let's see here now. Okay.
So it's using 238 up to 239 gig of the 930.
Yeah, and it's going up. I mean, if we look at the Bitcoin node,
The chain.
here's the Bitcoin node. We'll look at where the Bitcoin node is at, let's see, we're only at 28%. I've had it running, yeah, it's still syncing. I've had it running since this morning, and it's still syncing, so I won't be able to show it to you actually in operation.
The blockchain as of last week was 767 gig.
I know, and I only have a 1 terabyte drive on that, so it's going to almost fill it, but we'll make it. We'll get there. It's just that, yeah, this is the Bitcoin node running on there, so.
Okay, it's listening.
Okay, so, let's see, go back here. That was the Bitcoin node. These are the other different, they call them programs or apps or whatever. And here's the App Store. So you can see that there's lots of stuff. I mean, you can run DeepSeek on there. Andre, you said you were interested in DeepSeek. You can run your own server that runs DeepSeek, which keeps it completely local. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, there's just so much you can put onto Umbrel that it gets a little overwhelming, but there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can add to Umbrel.
So this is the Umbrel App Store.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every Linux distribution has what they call a repository, which is a collection of programs that have been tested for that version of Linux.
Right.
They're not installed, but they go, if you decide you want to use them, they're installed from the software source for that distribution and installed correctly.
Exactly, but that's not what this is.
That's not the same.
No, it's not the same. No, this is like more of a closed Linux system, and when you go, as long as you have internet access, you go in. It's their app store that you're going to.
Yes.
But it's not the open repository. Like it is with Linux.
But everybody manages their own repository.
Yeah, but it's different because it has to be Umbrel authorized. Like there's a specific protocol to be able to upload it to their app store that you have to follow. And you're right, most of those Linux apps are portable to Umbrel, but they have to actually take the time to do that. And so not all of them will be included in there. Like if you look, for instance, on Bitcoin, there's a whole bunch of them. I mean, really, there's a whole bunch of different, you know, apps that you can add to Umbrel. Like, look at them all. Like, there's tons of them.
Can you do the full mempool thing on that?
Sorry?
Or data, you can put a data server on there.
Yeah, there's tons of things you can add to it. And you know, it's pretty cool because it gives you a little bit more. I mean, look at, even under finance,
That's good to know.
you know? Media, you can do audiobooks. If you're into audiobooks, you can have it serve up audiobooks for you. So Umbrel is a whole different thing. It's just an interface that allows you to run the Bitcoin nodes and the Lightning nodes, but it's a whole different thing that that has a lot more as well. And it's up and running. Like I'm actually logged in to that Umbrel server there through my Mac. That's why I'm showing you this. There's no way to go and see it. If you go and look on the server over here, well, that's it. Umbrel login, that's it. Like there's nothing there. Even if you were to log in, there's nothing there. There's really no way to access it.
All command line on the server?
All command line on the server. That you can't even actually access the server or do anything with the server through the command line. It's not even like a traditional Linux distro. All you can do is, you know, very basic things. You can get the IP address and a few other little things, but you can't configure any of the multimedia stuff or anything else like that. Because remember, you can run all of this stuff on there. MeTube, if you want to create your own YouTube channel, Plex, Reader, there's like tons and tons of things. There's networking. I mean, there's a lot of different apps that you can run on this Umbrel server. And the beauty of it is that this, just to give you an idea how good this server is, I had Plex running on that machine under Windows 10, and it was taking a lot of resources on that machine to run just Plex on Windows 10. So you're running Windows 10, you're running Plex, nothing else. It was taking a lot of processing power. Now, if we go and we look and we see what this guy is using now, like, yes, now it's spiking up a little bit here and there, but it's not using much like it used to. It's
6 gig out of 20 gig of RAM.
yeah, it's only using 4 of the threads. And yeah, like you said, 6 gigs out of 20 gigs of RAM in that machine. And the thing is, though, look what we're running, though. We're running Bitcoin node, Lightning node, the system is running, the Lightning terminal is running, the BTC tracker is running, and Plex is running. So that's running all of that stuff, only taking a very small amount of the RAM because there's no overhead. It's just it's a very light system.
Linux is like that anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you assign your own URL to get there, or how does that work?
Well, you've got to, basically you just put in umbrel.local once you got it on your network. That's it. You type in umbrel.local and it just pulls it up. You set your username, your password, and then the first time after that you're assigning media files and all that different stuff. So, yeah. Yeah, there it is. It tells you the local IP number, tells you the amount of uptime. You can change the wallpaper around. You can make it look different background looks if you want. You can actually put 2FA on there too if you want, and you can create it for Tor access only. So if you wanted to have it more secure, you could make it Tor access only, which is kind of cool because now if you set up a Plex server or your Lightning node or anything else on the Umbrel server, you can actually access it from anywhere. So it's kind of cool. So if you got a nice big movie collection that you want to watch anywhere, you can put Plex on there, put your movie collection on there, and you can watch it from wherever you are in the world. But this is not a presentation about Umbrel, but I did want to kind of show you that. I was hoping to actually, do the whole thing with Umbrel and set it up and all that, but it turned out to be just a little too complex. This is the Plex server running under Umbrel as well. So we'll go back to this guy now that you've seen that. Okay. So that's what ends up happening once you do all this stuff. And they make it sound like it's really easy. It's not that easy, but it's also not that hard. If you go step by step, and like Andre said, if you're willing to talk to the AI a little bit and help you along, you can figure this out like no problem. And then this part here is just talking about how you would connect to the node, and it will show you, like if I went back, it won't let me go back, but if you tell it to show you your Bitcoin node, it will actually literally pull up a QR code like that, and I tied a blue wallet into it, so you're able to actually use that. As soon as it's up and running, you're able to use that as your gateway. So if you've got like a mining farm or you want to do transactions locally, you can use that as your gateway, which is kind of cool. Now it's not up to date, of course, but that's once it gets up to date. All right. So opening channels and managing liquidity. So you're basically locking up BTC is what you're doing, and you're doing outbound and inbound Bitcoin. So you got to be able to handle it both ways. So you've got to have enough Bitcoin locked up that you can receive transactions and send transactions. And the challenge, it has to be balanced in order for it to work properly and for you to, have a good Lightning node set up. If you're just setting it up for fun and just trying it out, it doesn't matter. You just have a tiny bit on there and you just give it a go and you see what happens. But if you want to actually do this to make some money, like they're saying, start small, 100K or 500K sats. That's only like, $10 maybe. And you can rebalance the channels. You can get used to doing all this kind of stuff. And like it says, think of Lightning like plumbing. You need a flow in both directions to keep things moving. So you've got to connect to other nodes and you've got to offer your node. So you've got to be able to send it down the road and you've got to be able to receive it. So that's basically what they're talking about there. It does give you some privacy. What you gain is you gain no public ledger of each payment. So if there's many payments, like we ran into this years ago, remember, where we were doing a lot of transactions on the Bitcoin blockchain, and then that wallet ended up costing so much to send it off of there because all these little transactions add up, right? All the UXOs, exactly, they add up and they add up and they add up. It got to a point where Bitcoin got really expensive to send that we couldn't even send that off. It was costing as much to send it as what we had in there. So this kind of eliminates that. It doesn't give you that kind of a problem. So you've got lots of transactions, but it ends up getting resolved back in real Bitcoin. So it's a lot easier that way.
So it compresses all the transactions into one
transaction.
So it eliminates all the UTXOs.
Each day, exactly. One transaction coming from that Lightning node to the Bitcoin blockchain. And the inbound channels don't reveal any private info as well. And if you're doing it on the Tor network, there's even one more level of privacy that's included with that. And it just reduces the reliance on other people, exchanges, that sort of thing. It gets you independent. And again, with privacy, you have control over it. You have the privacy of, knowing that your transactions are private. Even if you're just doing transactions yourself, even if you're not, setting up a coffee shop or whatever, your transactions are now private that you do, which is important, I think. And there are some limitations depending on how you have it set up. So the node does see the other level of traffic. The node can look on the network and see the traffic that's going around. It doesn't know what the traffic is, but it can see that.
When you say the traffic between other nodes?
Yeah, the traffic that it has to other nodes.
So it's traffic between other Lightning nodes?
Yes, yeah.
Other Bitcoin nodes?
Yes, Lightning nodes, Lightning nodes, not Bitcoin nodes, Lightning nodes. And channel partners can know your routing activity because, of course, you're tying into them. And it really depends on how you set it up. If you actually set it up through the Tor network, a lot of these issues just go away. If you're just doing it on the open internet, it's just for fun, you're trying it out, it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. Until you're trying to do it as a serious thing to maybe try and gain some funds for your Bitcoin, it really wouldn't matter too much. And just to talk a little bit about the Start9 Embassy OS, again, this is a Linux distro that you can just boot into and you can set it up as your full Bitcoin Lightning node and Lightning stack. So you got a Bitcoin node and a Lightning stack all in one. And you can also run email through it as well. It has like a secure email server built into it too. So that one you can do something like a Proton Mail, your own personal version of a Proton Mail, which is kind of cool. Okay. I'll just wait till she stops that. Okay. And so this one is not quite as polished of a user interface. It's got a little bit more of a learning curve, and you need to have some dedicated hardware for it. You can't just have like a Raspberry Pi or something like that. You've got to have a decent machine behind it. Like, well, this machine that I have here would be more than sufficient for that. And it can run Lightning, full control, self-hosted. So this is more of a long-term kind of solution that you would put in place if you wanted to have the utmost security. You're running through Tor, nobody's going to track what you're doing. So it's a good solution, but it's, again, as most things, when they get more complicated, they're a little bit harder to do. But if you get the right piece of hardware and you get, the Linux distro loaded on there, a lot of times they just work. It's getting better and better all the time, as you probably know too there, Brock. So, you just basically set up a wallet, you scan the Lightning invoice, which is just another QR code. You confirm the amount of sats and you hit send. It's really the same thing as you do a normal Bitcoin transaction. It's identical when you're doing it on the Lightning Network. The only difference is it's going through that channel. And there's a few different wallets that are pretty good. Blue Wallet is pretty good. I tested and used that one. And you can also just use the testnet if you want to just try it out and make sure it's something that you might want to do. Troubleshooting, well, most of the time, I think this is where we talk about, oh, this is not the troubleshooting one. Okay, this is the voltage. So voltage we'll have a look at. The voltage node is very easy to set up. This is the one that we talk about, Voltage.Cloud. And no coding, no command line. There's no hardware involved. You don't have to have a static IP address. It's all, they just do it for you. And I did set one up, super simple. It's good for learning and testing and all that kind of stuff. And channel capacity, a maximum of 5 BTC per node. I don't think that's going to be a problem for most people, you know. But with this one, at least you know if you set something up through Voltage, you've got a robust, enterprise-ready platform that you're working through. Yes, if you end up using it seriously, you have to pay a monthly fee with them, and I think they charge $25 a month. But I'll just show you. I set that up quickly, and we'll show you that running here, because I did get that one going as well, as long as I can find it.
Browser looks like mine.
Yeah, I know. Okay, that's not it.
Tabs.
Yeah, at least. That's on a good day. Let's just do a new one because I can't find the old one. Okay, so we'll do. Yep. Yeah, it's fine for my Mac. It loads it like that. I go over to that high-end PC over there and I wait like 5 minutes for it just to load my tabs. It's not good. Okay, Voltage.Cloud. There we go. Okay, so there we are. We're at Voltage.Cloud. And, oh, I remember why. Okay. I do have it. I just set it up on, yeah, I set it up on Safari so I could do it quickly. Oh, here we are. Okay, so I didn't actually set it up yet, but this is how you do it. Once you set it up and you create an account, you've basically got the infrastructure or payments. If you want to set up a payment gateway for your business or just for fun or whatever, you'd go to payments. If you want to set up the infrastructure, you just go to this end and you say set up a Lightning node. I already set one up for CryptoNutz here, and that's it. We've got a Lightning node just like that. You've got, you know, you've got a BTC Pay server. You've got a Bitcoin Core node because it does have to keep track of Bitcoin, and here it is right here. 2FA is off, but you can put high levels of security onto this, and yeah, there's
It says Bitcoin Core nodes. You
yes,
can multiple nodes.
You can run multiples if you want. Yes, I just set up one, but yeah, you can run multiples if you want. But you can have a BTC Pay server, so you can have like a terminal with an iPad or whatever at your store if you want to be able to take Lightning payments. It's all contained within this one.
Quick question: If you set up a node on here, because this is a Lightning node service, does it sort of centrally store the blockchain and just make another copy of the blockchain of your specific?
Yeah, that's.
And it doesn't have to wait 2 days to sync?
Yes, it's instant. Yeah, they handle the blockchain for you, and you're using their version of the blockchain. It's kind of like a hot wallet, same idea, right? Where they've got the whole Bitcoin blockchain there.
So you're just connecting to that blockchain.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is this centralized thing?
It's still it's still got all the same levels of security, but it's.
The users on one hanging off one node.
See, if you want the plan, it's like $25 a month. Then you can do 1,000 transactions a month and 5,000 in monthly volume. If you go beyond that, then they want you to talk to them and pay them more money. But they do give you a high level of security and everything is done. If you just want to try it out, it's free for developers and full API access. Yeah,
Access.
exactly.
It's a test net.
It's a test net, yeah, yeah. They'll let you test it, they'll let you see it, but if you want to actually use it, you got to pay. But it's easy. It literally takes, you know, you log in, create an account, and you've got a Bitcoin node or a Lightning node, like instantaneously. So that's kind of one of those deals where you pay. The other one is completely free. Like you set up your server on your own and you just manage it on your own and you take care of it on your own. Most of these hosting solutions, it's like anything else. It's all part of that where they're trying to make money. All right, so it's easy, you can do it, but if you really need it, you're gonna have to pay that money every single month. But I mean, if you're putting 5 BTC on there, I don't think you're gonna be complaining about paying $25 a month because you should be making some pretty serious money. Now, the one thing I will say is if you go on some of these other ones like Umbrel and some of the other ones where you do it yourself, there's a potential chance that you may not be in a completely secure environment. So that's a concern. Like, you know, like a lot of this stuff is untested. It's testnet stuff, and a lot of that is made for fun. At least if you do go on something like Voltage, you know that there's enterprise level security on there, 2FA, some of these kind of things that aren't built in to a lot of these other products out there. So one of the funny things is when I went to go ahead and set up Umbrel, and I clicked on the Bitcoin Lightning node, one of the first things it says to me is, oh, hey, by the way, don't put any real money on here. This is all experimental. So, you know, whenever you see stuff like that, you got to go, I don't know, like, you know, should I be putting any real money on there? Like, I don't know. It's pretty new stuff, but it's getting more and more popular. I mean, this troubleshooting stuff, I'm just going to I'm going to skip past that, because basically it's just saying reboot your machine 80% of the issues. I know when I was in IT, one of the first things we would just say to people is, have you rebooted your machine? And you know this too, Brock, like it's the number one thing that you do is you just say, have you rebooted your machine? I even say that to Stacy. She almost wants to smack me every time, but I always say to her, have you rebooted your machine? Even if it's an iPad, right? No, I haven't rebooted for months. Well, do that first and then let's talk. And almost that says 80%, I'd say 90% of the time when you do that, you reboot your iPad, your iPhone, your PC, whatever it is, most problems are resolved. So that's ultimately what this whole thing, that's what this whole thing boils down to. And they are talking primarily about Umbrel here, where they say that, you know, node syncing, stuff like that. Well, we saw, like, mine is only like, I mean, I set it up this morning and it's 8 o'clock now and it's only like 28%. So, and I got a gigabit connection here, so it's a very fast connection. And yeah, you're just going to take some time to get it done. So go deeper, tools, resources, and communities. Most of this stuff here, if anybody wants to take a picture of it, you're certainly welcome to. GetUmbrel.com is where you get that Umbrel OS. Start9.com, that's how you get the Start9 OS. LightningTerminal.com, that's how you can manage your Lightning networks. Yeah, I know, all this technical stuff. 1ml.com, Lightning Node Explorer, if you want to look around there, memspace, just looking at the Bitcoin mempool and the fee tracking, and just a bunch of good things to learn more about and to look at. Voltage Academy, how to learn how to use Voltage and what to do with it, and Telegram, Lightning Network discussions, there's lots of them. GitHub, Umbrel, LND, Start9, they're all on GitHub. Everything is on GitHub. Like
LND?
Yeah, Lightning Network. So, CryptoNutz wisdom. Why run a Lightning node? Well, total control over your money. Like, you have complete control. It does give you privacy, a higher level of privacy. So if you're using your Bitcoin, you actually have some control over your privacy. You become part of Bitcoin's decentralized future, because it's important to keep this stuff decentralized and to make sure that, you know, we're at any opportunity trying to stay more decentralized and more private, because as government starts sticking its nose into everything, you got to realize that privacy is going to become paramount. And routing fees, you do get some routing fees, and you can experiment, you can do some automations, you can make a little bit of money, so it's something that you can learn slowly. Be careful when you do this stuff. Learn by doing, own your own infrastructure. So you own what you're doing, like it's all yours. You don't have to, as long as you have a decent internet connection, you literally can set this up and do it all from your own home. You don't have to rely on anybody. And that's how running a node is how you stop being a user and start becoming part of the network. You start becoming part of the solution as opposed to just being, you know, part of the problem. And that's about it. That's all I got for you on that. Anybody that wants any more information about any one of these, I'll certainly help you out with that.
Is there, maybe this is old information, maybe this is a misunderstanding, but is there a geographic component to using Lightning?
No, not that I'm aware of, no. It's not geographic specific, and the nodes, when they resolve back to the Bitcoin blockchain, are completely anonymous. There's no identifiers on the nodes. So it's just a node resolving Bitcoin transactions.
Does it? Do Lightning nodes involve email?
No. But you can, that's that LND tie-in, right?
I don't know.
I think that's what it is. It's where you can send it by email. There's a tie-in that you can do through that. I saw that actually in the Umbrel setup.
Everything you sort of talked about here is based on wallets. Mm-hmm. Wallets tied to those nodes.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So, anybody ready to go set up their own node?
Yeah. Everybody should be running a node. Everybody who is interested in Bitcoin should really be contributing. I think should be contributing to the network by running a node.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, to run a Bitcoin Lightning node is way easier than what we talked about here. I mean, you can do that through Umbrel, and you can also have your Plex server and anything else there on there that you
Running
want.
a regular node, not a
But
Lightning.
just a regular, well, you have to be running the Bitcoin node to be able to run the Lightning node.
That's right.
So they're part and parcel of the same thing. But just the Bitcoin node on your own, you're right. You're contributing to the network and to keeping the decentralization and making sure that, you know, it's spread out all over the world and there's lots and lots of copies of the blockchain. And that's what you're doing when you run a Bitcoin node. You're just running a copy of the Bitcoin blockchain that everybody can resolve back to and make sure they're all the same. Any questions?
So you actually haven't been running a node or
Yep.
Lightning for, you've 8 hours
Since this morning.
this morning.
Yeah.
Season 10.
That's right. Through the Umbrel, of course. Yeah.
And the blockchain hasn't finished syncing yet. So.
No, I think it's still at 28% or so. Can go back there and have a peek at that.
4 days.
Well, it's
It took, when I first set one up,
It was
took about
7 years
8
ago, it
hours.
was up to 7 years ago.
yeah.
It was when it was
Was it?
7
Well,
years.
let's have a look. We're at 30% now.
It says 7 years.
What's your internet speed?
Latest blocks,
A gigabit. We have a gigabit up and down. That's just all it's doing is loading all the old blocks and just building that node up so that it'll have all the transactions of the Bitcoin blockchain. So that's pretty cool. If you think about it, all the transactions that have ever happened to the Bitcoin blockchain going right back from 2009 are all going to be contained within this Bitcoin node once it's finished, which is kind of cool. Does take a while though.
So this grand scheme you were talking about of demonstrating how to set it up,
Yeah,
we aren't going to see that today.
you did.
No.
The actions of doing it, though, we're not gonna see the drama.
Well, you did see the voltage one, but the other one you have to set up the Umbrel server first, which is something that's. I'm going to give you a handout. I got a handout that I'm going to give you that'll tell you the basics on how to do it. But it would have taken too long to set up the Umbrel server and then to put the Bitcoin node. And I really thought that this would have synchronized by now, so I could show you actual transactions on here. But
When did you set up this node?
that was this morning when I first got in, around 8.
And the peers, it looks like there's an information circle beside it. 10 peers?
Yeah.
With the eye.
With the eye.
Float your cursor to the eye to see what the eye is.
Yeah, I didn't put it on Tor because it's just for demonstration. When I actually initially had it on Tor, it told me that the Tor network was too congested.
Yeah, the Tor is slow.
It was really slow. So if I wanted to update this whole blockchain on Tor, yeah, it would have taken forever.
For
Yeah.
the transactions, the operating mode might be okay.
Yeah, once it's up to date, then you could switch back to being running on Tor. But to get it initially, you got to pretty much leave it wide open and just get as much data in as quick as you can and bring it up to date.
Peers.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of interesting. What is
For
it?
computers, you can just go down to, like, there's a little computer place over in the region out, you know what, you can buy these little refurbished mini computers with, you can put 60 gig of RAM on an i5 hexacore, and that's plenty of system to run.
It is.
For like $150.
Yep.
Not
Yep.
expensive.
Yeah, as long as you have 8 gigs minimum.
And you run them headless, they don't have to be connected.
No.
You need a minimum 1 terabyte these days.
Yeah, that's the problem with those ones is normally they're 256 on
No,
those.
no, you get, I have terabyte hard drives, you put 2 terabyte hard drives. They're just M.2 slots.
Yeah, they're expensive M.2 though.
Yeah, depending on speed.
Yeah, I mean 2 terabyte drive, you're gonna pay more than that for that than the disk itself.
For a node, you put a 1 on it.
One terabyte, still pretty expensive though.
COS doesn't take much.
Still about $150 for 1 terabyte though.
No, for this, yeah, you could do it.
Yeah, well, yeah, about 300-400 altogether. Yeah.
I don't even think that much.
Well, the unit itself is going to cost you $150. Then a new drive's going to cost you $150.
I don't remember what I paid for it. It's just some time ago.
Probably find it on Amazon, choose a hard drive for $100, but
Oh,
I
hell
wonder how long that'll last.
Oh, just go Memory Express, man. Support the locals.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're all local in there.
exactly.
Yeah, oh yeah.
There it is. There it is, 254 gigs. It's used up 254 gigs of my terabyte hard drive. 721 left. Oh my Lord, it's gonna fill it up. It's not even gonna fit.
It will. No.
It says it's still got 721 left.
But it's got 30% of the blockchain downloaded.
I know, but it's got 721 left. Add 721 to
All
255.
I have is running on a 1 terabyte drive with an OS, and it's still got
Wow.
200 gig of space. I think you're okay.
Well, let's hope so. We'll find out. Doesn't matter. I wiped the machine to do this anyway, so.
Out of the 1 terabyte.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you think 725 total? Yeah.
That's what you have left. It's still, it's not as big as that.
Your OS is not using much space.
No, the OS is next to nothing on this thing. It's 799 megabytes. So yeah, it's not much at all. So yeah, I know a little bit of a technical one today, right? Okay. Any questions? Okay, that's all we got.
Awesome.
That's all we got. Okay, close it out. Thanks, everyone. All right. Anyone wants to see it running or test any of that stuff, let me know. Yeah.
How's your wallet doing?